It is happening again. It is happening again. What's up? It's the Culture Detective here investigating your favorite movies, and today I'm going to be doing a quick movie review on Twin Peaks Fire Walk with Me. I planned to watch the movie yesterday, but halfway through I decided to go to bed because it was real late. So I finished the second half of the movie this morning, earlier, a couple hours ago, in fact. I don't even think an hour ago. I just finished the movie fresh, and I have to do a review it right now. And this is the kind of movie that I wish I could have had more time to sleep on, perhaps, because this is a very special movie. So, Twin Peaks Fire Walk with Me is a David Lynch film, and this film was also co-written by Mark Frost. Now, Twin Peaks Fire Walk with Me isn't exactly a standalone movie. This is actually a prequel to the TV show Twin Peaks, aired on ABC from 1990 to 1991. This is a classic TV. It's not the most popular and well known because it is a very unconventional and surreal TV show that is very uncommon for TV shows, especially back in the 90s. But even if someone decides to make something like Twin Peaks today, it would still be considered unconventional. So that's how you know how ahead of the time David Lynch was when he made Twin Peaks. But anyways, even so, in the art house community, Twin Peaks is a highly praised TV show. I watched Twin Peaks many years ago, seasons 1, season 2. I didn't watch this movie. I watched The Return afterwards, which is Twin Peaks season 3, aired in 2017. And I was completely blown away because Twin Peaks The Return, which took place 26 years after Twin Peaks season 2, in real time, is completely different from the original Twin Peaks. It's so much darker. The cinematography, the tone, the music, everything's just so different. The performances, even the story feels different. It's so much larger and grander. It's not limited to a small town anymore. Twin Peaks is about a town called Twin Peaks in the middle of nowhere in northwest USA, somewhere in the Washington state. A girl, a perfect goody two shoes type girl named Laura Palmer, is murdered. And the whole show is basically about Dale, played by Kyle MacLachlan, trying to figure out who is the killer, just to get into a rabbit hole of supernatural dreams and whatnot. But yeah, season 1 is fantastic, but season 2 straight off the path completely. It has so much more comedy, so much more humor, and not in a way David Lynch intended. In a way, ABC is sort of changing the story in order to market it into something that's more widely appreciated. But obviously, Twin Peaks is something unmarketable in the first place. Only art house fans will be able to enjoy something this freaking weird. And yeah, so season 2, even though I enjoyed a bulk of season 2, I still think that season 2 is bloated, it's too long, and it has too many random subplot lines that don't serve the main plot at all. And it's obvious that David Lynch didn't like that as well. So, in reaction to Twin Peaks season 2, aired in 1991, immediately in the next year, 1992, David Lynch decided to forcefully put Twin Peaks back on the right path with this movie, the prequel, Fire Walk with Me, and tell us that it is not supposed to be funny. In fact, it's supposed to be extremely fucking sad, which is what this movie ended up being. So yeah, Fire Walk with Me is the prequel, and it is about Laura Palmer and her last days before she got murdered. Now let me take a little moment and talk about Twin Peaks The Return again. It's extremely dark and empty, and it doesn't limit itself to a small town again. But what I realized after watching Fire Walk with Me is that this is exactly the trajectory that David Lynch is going for. Because Twin Peaks Fire Walk with Me does feel like Twin Peaks, but also doesn't feel like Twin Peaks, if you know what I mean. Yeah, the settings are the same, the characters are the same, it deals with similar themes, but it does so in such a surreal and mad way. It basically takes the original Twin Peaks and completely strips away most of the comedy and make it even more surreal, nightmarish, and painful to watch. And also because Fire Walk with Me is mainly about Laura Palmer, and Laura Palmer pretty much appears in every single scene. So the original Twin Peaks has an ensemble cast, and there are tons of like other characters like Nadine and Big Ed and Ben. Like they don't show up in this movie at all. They don't show up, and even characters like Dale Cooper, who is the main character of Twin Peaks, only showed up in like 3 scenes, 3 or 4 scenes. So not he didn't show up a lot, and that's apparently because Kyle MacLachlan didn't want to be typecast as this really weird, dreamy, coffee-loving uh, detective, I guess. But this movie is truly a special one because even though it is a prequel to Twin Peaks, it still somehow serves as a standalone movie. Yet, if you haven't watched Twin Peaks at all, you're going to fucking hate this movie. It's so strange, it's so surreal, it's going to blow your socks off. Your socks are going to be on fire. Um, yeah, and to me, it's not that weird because I already watched Twin Peaks before. I already know what to expect. The reverse talking, the Black Lodge, Bob, the Ring. I have already seen that stuff, the horse appearing out of nowhere, the really weird bar. But for somebody who hasn't seen Twin Peaks at all, this movie is definitely not for you. And if you're a casual fan of Twin Peaks, you wouldn't enjoy this movie too necessarily because this movie doesn't have any fan service, nor is it that similar with the original Twin Peaks, anyways. So, obviously, as expected, this movie ended up having terrible reception. A lot of critics bashed this movie, saying that it feels like one of the worst movies of all times. Now, it is partially exactly because of that. I walked into this movie expecting to love it, and I can safely say that this movie has lived up to my expectations, but it isn't exactly what I think it is. So, obviously, the score by Angelo Badalamenti is absolutely amazing. It's just another sad, dreamy, jazzy score. You get the Taxi Driver score, you get the Miles Davis elevator and the Gallows score, and then you get this, which is also in the same criteria of sad, lonely, jazzy, dreamy music, and it slaps so hard. It's amazing. The acting is also really good. Cheryl Lee as Laura Palmer gives off a very painful and traumatic performance, which is really amazing. But of course, the best element of this movie is the directing. David Lynch is one of my favorite directors of all times, and he just oozes with style on this one. Every single scene in this movie has a lot to chew on. The choices of camera work and the editing, it's a lot to chew on. But I guess it's not as bad as I thought it is, and by that I don't mean like bad in terms of quality, but it's not as unconventional I thought it would be. Maybe it's because I watched Twin Peaks: The Return before I watched this movie, and Twin Peaks: The Return is just like 10 times more unconventional than anything David Lynch has made, by the way. Like if you've seen Mulholland Drive or Blue Velvet, Twin Peaks: The Return is leagues more unconventional and artsy and strange. So, I guess when it comes to outstranging things, I guess Twin Peaks: The Return is still the strangest. So I wasn't exactly blown away by how strange it is, but I'm sure that if I haven't watched Twin Peaks: The Return, I would probably be extremely impressed and floored by how surreal Fire Walk with Me is. And same goes for any other David Lynch film. Blue Velvet and Mulholland Drive. Check those movies out if you haven't. They're masterpieces. David Bowie's in this movie for like one scene. There's apparently more of him in Twin Peaks: The Missing Pieces, but unfortunately in this movie he only gets one scene and he steals it. And he even enters the scene in the most surreal way possible as a ghost. And he has a Hawaiian shirt with a white suit on top, and he speaks in a southern sort of this Texas accent. and he just comes out of nowhere and says, "We don't talk about Judy," and it's awesome. I freaking love that scene. I don't know why. It doesn't make any sense. It's so out of nowhere, but it's awesome. And some theories were even saying that Judy represents the ending of Twin Peaks Fire Walk with Me, and David Bowie saying that is like, don't spoil the ending, and it's not criticism, a meta commentary on the movie itself, kind of like how in Twin Peaks: The Return, one of the agents was like, "What happened in season 2?" But yeah, again, we don't have a lot of Dale. Dale is like a bright, positive light in the original, and because he wasn't in this movie all that much, this movie automatically already feels a lot dimmer and a lot more unsettling without Dale. There are jump scares in this movie, and they're all freaking amazing. Yeah, there are a lot of effective jump scares here. They don't necessarily like scare you in a very horrifying way, but it's the Mulholland Drive jump scare, except it's in Twin Peaks, and it's amazing. Just the build up, the sound, the noise. I love the sound design of this movie as well. The electricity clicking, the droney sounds, the they're amazing. um, and yeah, again, I wasn't blown away, I guess, all that much. I mean, if I hadn't watched Twin Peaks: The Return, I probably would be. But what I can say is that this movie is really sad. David Lynch basically takes teenage delinquency and make it really sad and really surreal with a very, very nightmarish ending. And yeah, that's pretty much it. They also recasted the actress for Donna with the girl from The Cutting Edge. And I only know about The Cutting Edge is because from my film class I'm taking right now, we have to recreate a scene from The Cutting Edge. So I only know that because of that. But yeah, so everyone gave a great performance. It's still very dreamlike. It's still very weird. But I guess now that I've watched Twin Peaks: The Return, this movie almost makes sense to me. It alludes to the idea that Dale is going to develop into good Dale and evil Dale in The Return. And it also even alludes to the convenience store above the gas station, which is featured heavily in Twin Peaks: The Return, which I absolutely friggin' love. And there is so much shitty dialogue in this movie, but because it's David Lynch, I sort of forgive him. You know, there's one line where it's like gobble gobble gobble, and if this is in any other movie, if this line is in any other movie, I would call it shit. But because it's Twin Peaks Fire Walk with Me, it actually like I just forgive it, you know. And that's pretty much it. I love this movie a lot, and I think I'll love it even more if I rewatch it. So I'm just gonna leave it at that. Kind of feeling strong 9 to a 10. So if you watched Twin Peaks Fire Walk with Me from 1 to 10, which is rated, I like if you like it and subscribe if you want more. And thanks for watching.